So today we're going to have a quick look at the Surebonder 9600B. Now I bought this stapler because I wanted to do some upholstery work, recovering some seats on jet skis, four-wheelers, things like that. And I tried using a hand stapler and it just wasn't cutting it. That's why I got this little guy. Now this is an incredibly inexpensive air stapler. I think I paid about 30 bucks for mine, and it seems to be very well built. Let's have a close-up look at this, see some of the features of it, and see the one modification that I couldn't live without. In the instruction manual, the stapler itself, right here, a little bottle of lubricant, and it even comes with a tool for servicing it. Let's have a look at this gun and see some of the great features it has. Now mine came with a fitting pre-installed. This is a T-50 type stapler, so it shoots your regular arrow style staples. It has a button for releasing. Here you load your staples in with the points facing up like this, so facing the way that you're going to be shooting them in. Now this has a safety. So, you see that little guy right there? Has to be pushed in order for it to fire. So, that's the one modification that I couldn't live without on this stapler. Getting rid of the safety. Because I'm using it for upholstery, I need to be able to get into a fairly tight spot and not have to worry about that safety hitting things or not hitting things and me pulling the trigger trying to get it to fire when it absolutely will not. So let's show you how to do that. You probably could just zip tie this up or do something like that, but I really wanted the whole assembly just gone and out of the way. So our little service tool here, we're going to take these front 4 screws out and then take this nose apart so that we can get this out. So we'll go ahead and pop that off. Watch very carefully because they have this little spacer guy on there and you need that to not get lost. Sometimes they like to stick in this. Now this is going to come apart in the following sequence. We have a little plastic piece on the front, and then there's a spring right here. So we want to get that spring out of the way right now so it doesn't go flying across the room and poke somebody in the eye or something. So then there's a little plate right here behind the safety mechanism. Has a groove in it. We'll talk about that later. And then one little piece right behind the driving part there. Now, as for getting this safety mechanism out, we're going to have to swing this over to the side a little bit and then pull it down out. So that's that. Now at this point, we can put this all back together because our next thing is in the actual trigger mechanism. So this little piece goes behind that little piece. Then this one goes with the grooved side. See how one side is flat, one side is grooved. Grooved side goes in. Then our plastic piece. Then we put our screws back in. Now you do not need to get these ridiculously tight, just decently snug is sufficient. Okay, so now our trigger assembly has a little pin that goes through here and it has an O-ring on it. So what we want to do is pry that little O-ring off. Let's see if we can get somewhere where you can see. This helps if you've got nails. Go. So that little O-ring comes off. We're going to set that aside so we don't lose it. Then we're going to push this pin through. And as we do that, we can flip it over so we can see this side. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so as we pull this pin out, so this pin is out, we're going to pull the trigger assembly down, and note that there is another spring, so we can just snag that little guy there. That's the trigger return spring, and then we can work on this. Now this one, as you can see, has already been modified. This is not how it comes from the factory. What I did was took a number 10 by 3/4 zip screw with a hex head and drove it up through the bottom of this. So this little flapper is what depresses this, which is what fires the gun. So you need to make, you need to make the space in between the bottom of the trigger and the top of this little flapper guy here equal to what it would be if it was being pushed up by this. Now conveniently, the head of that number 10 by 3/4 zip screw is exactly the right size for that. So I just drove it up through from the bottom, snapped off the front part, drove it up through, and then ground the top side flat with the Dremel. So once you've done that, just reassemble in the reverse order. So put your spring in, then put your trigger in, push your pin through your trigger assembly, and then put your little O-ring back on. And there you go. Keep in mind, once you have done this modification to the staple gun, it has no safety. Pulling the trigger will fire staples directly out the end with nothing in front of it, so that could be dangerous. It will also fire if you were to be dragging it around and it bumped against your leg or something, it could fire and go off. So if you decide to do this, be extra careful when you're working with a staple gun, because it makes it a lot easier to get hurt or potentially hurt somebody else. Even though these staples won't necessarily fire far, still be careful. So that's all there is for today. Thanks for watching.